Hi, my name is Christina Campbell, and I wanted to do a follow-up video on my son Ethan. A few months back I had done a video talking about my 9-year-old and his testimony with ProBio 5. Just to recap really quickly, since Ethan was about 18 months old, he was diagnosed at the time, it's a little young for an asthma diagnosis, so they call it reactive airway. He would just start turning blue out of nowhere, and so we learned very quickly that he needed to go to a specialist, and often. For several years, Ethan was in and out of the emergency room several times a year on prednisone steroids, at least 6, 7, sometimes 8 times a year, just to control his breathing. He was also on several medications. So about a year ago, he was up to max dose of Flovent, and the pulmonologist had said that next time she saw him, she was anticipating having to put him on Advair because he was only getting worse every season. And he was also at the time on Singulair, Claritin, Benadryl, and he was going twice a week for allergy shots. And he was still miserable. I remember going to his room at night and he would say, "Mommy, I am so uncomfortable with my allergies and I can never breathe," which would cause him tons of anxiety, and that would just make the situation worse. He wouldn't be able to do sports at school because he would always have shortness of breath. He was in and out of the nurse's office, so he really struggled for years. So when I started on Plexus and I started researching gut health, I took the ingredients to the pulmonologist. That we at this point were seeing her about every 3 months, sometimes more often, depending on his O2 saturations, which would just drop on us for any given reason, especially if, let's say today was a hot day and tomorrow was a really cold day, then he would have breathing problems instantly. So we saw her quite often, and I took in the ingredients for ProBio 5. It was not on like one of our regular scheduled appointments. It was an emergency visit. And I said, what do you think if I give him this probiotic? And she looked at the ingredients and she said, well, it's not going to hurt him, but I don't think that it's going to do anything. So at this point, he's on all those medications, and I started him on ProBio 5. Immediately, I could see a change in him, but of course, I'm second-guessing myself. We've had so many issues with him over the years, and so I wasn't sure what was going to happen. When we went in for our follow-up a few months later, he went for his breathing test because he would always do a breathing test. The pulmonologist came in and she said, "What are you doing? His numbers are fabulous. They're not even that of an asthmatic." She said, "I can't even tell you how much he's improved." And I said, "Well, we're using this probiotic, ProBio 5 from Plexus." And she says, "Keep doing what you're doing because it's the only thing that's worked." At that point, she had lowered his Flovent to the lowest dose. We took him off Singulair, Claritin, and Benadryl. I had taken him off the Claritin and the Benadryl because he wasn't needing it as much, and I had stopped the allergy shots because he was all bruised up and in so much pain, and it wasn't doing anything. And so at that point, he was really only on the Singulair, which the side effects were severe anxiety for him. Anxiety, night terrors. It was really bad, but you need to breathe. So when she took him off the Singulair, we were just thrilled, but nervous because he's dependent on these medications for so long. So we were nervous to see if he'd end up on prednisone. Even the pulmonologist was nervous. Well, 3 months went by and we went back and his numbers were still phenomenal. And she's like, "You know what, I'm going to keep him on the low dose of Flovent just because when the seasons change, I want to see how he does. And then we'll determine what we do from there." And I am so happy to report that in the year that he's been on ProBio 5, he has only had to be on prednisone 1 time, and it was due to a mommy fail. We had run out of ProBio 5, and he went without it for a week, and he ended up having an asthma issue. So to anyone who thinks that maybe it wasn't ProBio 5, maybe he was outgrowing his childhood asthma, even I had that thought at times. You have those moments where you're like, this is so good, this is too good to be true. And it was like the Lord allowed that so that he could show me I have used this in his life to totally change it, because he went that 1 week without it and he ended up on prednisone, and we immediately got him back on it, and he cannot be off of it. His gut is nice and healthy. His allergies are under control. His asthma is controlled. He's no longer taking Flovent. and he is playing baseball and running around like normal kids, and we don't have to worry about having his duoneb treatment. We used to keep a bag full, a like 10-pound bag full of asthma medications everywhere we went, and we leave it at home all the time because we don't have need for it anymore. Even when he's around campfires, when his asthma is completely controlled, and I am so thankful for what Probio 5 has done for him. And it even goes deeper than that, because this past year he was having issues with his ears, and everybody was saying it's allergies, and trying to put him back on allergy medicines. And I said, if it was allergies, then why would his lungs be cleared up? That doesn't make any sense. And because I had that information from what Probio 5 has done for him and his asthma, we were able to figure out that he actually has an inner ear birth defect. And they went in there and they were able to correct the problem. But they had been blaming it on draining and fluid and allergies, and had it been before Plexus, I wouldn't have even known, and he would have been pumped full of more medications with no answers. But we were able to get answers, have his ear issues resolved. His lungs are completely under control. He says that Plexus has changed his life because he is able to do things that he never was before, and he's doing it without medication, just with probiotics. So I always recommend people who are struggling with things like this, that they do their research, that they Google leaky gut, and they see what leaky gut can do, and how important and vital it is that we take a good probiotic. And Plexus Probio 5 is that, because it's not just a probiotic, it is a probiotic that is an antifungal and a digestive enzyme, and it really truly does change lives. I hope that this can help someone, and have a wonderful day.